So you are wanting to start gardening, vegetable gardening, growing your own food, or you have just started. There are a bunch of things that you need to know that are going to set you up for the best possible success on this journey. And that's what this video is about. 5 plus a bonus tip, things that you need to keep top of mind when you are growing your own food and you are vegetable gardening to set you up for the best success moving forward. Did you know that it is estimated that between 20 and 30% of new vegetable gardeners and people who are growing their own food give up within the first year? It is also estimated that a further 30 to 40% of these beginner gardeners never make it past year 3. That is a lot of people that are wanting to start a self-sufficiency journey, but that just can't break through the challenges. And what are some of the main reasons why people quit? Well, firstly, it's unrealistic expectations. And I wholeheartedly believe Instagram, influencers, all of these external factors are making it seem unrealistic. Growing your own food, vegetable gardening is hard. It takes a lot of effort and it's a journey. It's not an instant gratification process. And that is point number 2, why people give up. They don't get instant rewards. It takes time. Garlic takes 9 months and you can have a failed crop. So time is an unrealistic expectation, is something that will get a lot of gardeners down. Then we look at soil and space. Some people just don't have the space and they can't find ways to work around the limited space they have. That causes them to give up. And then we have crop failure. That is probably one of the biggest factors in giving up. Crop failure, pests, diseases, all of those things combined can cause a lot of frustration. But what I can tell you from doing this for many years is it's a mindset. If you change your mindset into every failure is a learning opportunity, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for knowledge, then you are going to thrive in this journey. If you are going to be gardening and growing your own food and everything that happens gets you down, then yes, you are going to be part of the 10 to 20% in the first year or 30 to 40% in the up to year 3 that are going to give up. And I'm hoping that with these 5 plus a bonus tip, you need to stick to the end to get that one, are going to help you get you into the right mindset to continue driving forward and get on this incredible journey, which I have found many benefits to. I'm pretty sure I don't need to tell you that to garden and to grow your own food, you need soil, you need ground, and you need something to grow your food in. This is the first point, and probably the most important point, is soil and also spending on soil. Why do I have these two together? Let's get to spending first. When people start growing or they start gardening, they have this drive, this excitement, and what they do is they buy whatever they need to make this happen, and they end up spending quite a lot. And soil can cost a lot of money. Besides the beds that you're growing in, even if you're growing on the ground, if you aren't being innovative with what you are using, your soil can cost a lot. Then we look at some of the reasons people give up, which is lack of immediate reward. I understand that because you've spent so much on your soil, you want to get some kind of reward to give you the mental reward in return for the spend. So what I will say is don't overspend on soil. This soil next to me was from my neighbor who's digging a swimming pool. It's clay ground underneath, but there was 30 to 40 centimeters of incredible topsoil. And there's no way I was going to let that topsoil go to the dump. There is absolutely nothing wrong with asking neighbors when they're doing things. When you see things, when you see a building site, pop in there and say, that mound of dirt or that mound of compost or soil or whatever looks incredible. Can I please have 3 bags full for my veggie garden I'm creating at home? You'd be surprised at how kind and polite people actually are. And if they're grumpy, just get in your car and go. No loss. So ask around and don't let soil be the thing that makes you give up. A way to fail hard and fail quickly is to plant and grow in the wrong location. Here I am standing in my little veggie patch, which is a new one I'm creating in our rental area. And where I was standing on the other side is where there's a lemon tree, and we're going to create a little mini fruit orchard. Now, that spot has a lot of morning shade and then high afternoon sun, which is perfect for the trees because the trees are higher. However, the ground level is mostly shaded. That means if I chose that as my growing spot, I would have multiple crop failures and a lot of frustration because there's just not enough sun. We look at this spot, there's morning sun all the way through to afternoon. But what we have is a wall and a wall. And we need to know how the sun moves to choose the right location for the right plants. For instance, this wall over here provides full afternoon shade. So this side gets all my leafy greens that don't like a lot of the harsh afternoon sun. This side gets additional reflection off the wall from the little outbuilding. So there, it's perfect for tomatoes, chilies, eggplants, all those heat and sun-loving plants. So even when you have the ideal location, you need to look at the sun's movement and you need to decide where there's shade, where there's sun, because if you choose the wrong location and you plant the wrong crops in the wrong place, you are going to have crop failure, you are going to have slow growth, you're going to have frustration, and you're unfortunately probably going to look at giving up. You might be asking yourself, how do you get beautiful cabbages like this? How do you get such beautiful lush beetroots? Well, probably the most important thing is watering. Yes, there's nutrient and food requirements, but one of the most underrated aspects of watering is nutrient uptake. People tend to kill their gardens with kindness. They think the more water, the more food, the more of everything, the bigger and better it's going to become. When in actual fact, it's the opposite. Let's take watering as an example. Watering, if you give your plants too much water, they are not going to grow as intended or optimally. Why, you might ask? And that's because too much moisture in your soil, too much watering, stops the roots of the plants being able to absorb nutrients. That is a very, very important piece of the puzzle that people miss. Too dry, you could have your plants die and those little fine feeder roots dry up and frizzle up. Too wet, and those little feeder roots either are going to rot, or secondly, more realistically, is they are not able to take up the nutrients and the minerals that are in the soil. So, use the finger test. Depending on your beds, the size, whether you're growing in ground, big raised beds, partial raised beds. I've done a recent video on different types of raised beds, pros, cons, all of that. I'll put it up below, I'll tag it down below for you as well. But you can just use your finger, stick it in the ground. Personally, for me, I use my joints like this. First joint, second joint. If by your second joint at the top, the soil is still dry, it's time to water. If at your second joint, the soil is still sticking and it's moist, don't water, because then your soil is already at its optimal moisture condition. So don't kill your garden with kindness. Look at it, look at the leaves. If your brassicas are busy wilting, give it a little bit of water, but therein also lies a problem in that you need to know what plants you are planting together. Here we have brassicas, onions, and beetroots. All of those can and will be fine with a little bit of extra water. But some other crops, you don't necessarily want to be giving too much. And if you plant a water-loving plant, in the same bed as a non-water loving plant, then you potentially are going to run into issues and crop failure. So watering, watering, watering. Don't overdo it, don't underdo it, but also have patience, because watering, knowing your climate, knowing your soil, will take time. So don't be hard on yourself. Be willing to learn, be willing to make mistakes, and just use common sense when it comes to watering your garden. You would have just seen me kneeling in front of a beautiful, beautiful row of purple cabbages. Here is also a nice small new row of purple cabbages. And now for me, in my climate here in the southern hemisphere, is when you need to be planting cabbages. It's late autumn heading into winter, and now is when cabbages thrive, as you could see. But if this was late spring or summer, these cabbages would, three things. They would constantly wilt. They would, because of the wilting and stress, lock in a lot of pests that are going to come and eat them. And you thirdly have a chance of them going to seed and bolting, meaning you get no harvest. So this tip is all about planting the correct crops at the correct time. There are many, many, many resources out there, and I'm not going to tell you right now what to plant when, but know when to plant what. I have a massive bed of onions, and now is the time to plant onions, but I'm not going to be planting these in the middle of winter because then it's too late. So research what you like eating, what the seasons are for those, what the seasons and growing schedules overlap in terms of timing, but get your timing right. A lot of gardeners give up because they get crop failure and they don't get harvest because they plant at the wrong time. This row of broccoli in front of me, you will not get broccoli if you plant it at the wrong time. And broccoli takes a very long time to grow. So this could potentially cause a lot of frustration because you've invested a lot of time, effort, money, everything into this crop and you get nothing. So this tip is all about planting the correct crop at the correct time. The fifth mistake a lot of new gardeners make is not having a plan. If you just have beds you've put together and you just randomly start putting whatever you feel like growing into your beds, well, you're going to get frustrated because things aren't going to work out really well. You might get some harvests, but it's not going to be anywhere near what you expect. You need to have a plan. Firstly, you need to have a plan for when to plant what, which was tip number 4, planting the right thing at the right time. You need to plan for this. Also, what planning does is it allows you to reverse and backtrack. So if you want to transplant seedlings, let's say you want to transplant cabbages in autumn, you need to know when to start those cabbage seeds in summer so that they have enough growth to be able to transplant. You don't want to say, oh, now it's winter, now I must transplant, or now I must plant my seeds, because by the time your cabbages are this big, you've already halfway, potentially 3/4 of the way through winter, and then you're running into issues of your cabbages wanting to form heads when the heat is busy coming up in the summertime. So I use an app called Seed Time. And yes, it's based in the US and it's for Northern Hemisphere, but the same principles apply. You choose a crop, you put a date of transplant when you want to actually plant it, and the app will backtrack when you need to do what. Seed Time has been amazing for me in knowing how to get succession crops in as well. Here I have carrots, and I can't recall off the top of my head right now, but I already have plans for when these carrots come out, what's going in their space. And they would have been started somewhere else so that I don't have big gaps between my harvests. If you don't have a plan, you tend to have anything from 3 to 6 month gaps between harvests, because that's generally how long crops take to mature. Even if we were to replace these carrots with beetroots, if we harvest the carrots, then plant the beetroot seeds, it's going to take 3 months to get beetroot. However, if at this size of the carrots, I start the seeds on the beetroots, by the time these come out, the seedling beetroots will be a good 15 centimeter high, which means I can transplant them, and beetroot is something you can transplant, which means I'm now looking at a month to a month and a half waiting for the beetroot to mature. That's half the time. So using a good planning app, or just using Excel and doing a lot of research and having bed 1, season 1, 2, 3, 4, looking at when you need to do what, and then backtracking into seed starting, you're going to set yourself up for the best possible success. But if you don't plan and you just plant, as a beginner, you will inevitably experience a lot of frustration. And this is a big mistake a lot of gardeners do that cause them to end up quitting. Well done for sticking around to the very end. Your patience is very much appreciated. I hope you're getting value out of this, because this is the bonus tip. And the bonus tip is, don't take on too much too soon. I have seen way too many beginner gardeners fall into this trap. The excitement, the anticipation, the prospect of growing all of your food just pushes people over the edge and pushes them to do more than what they can handle without the necessary skills, equipment, experience to be able to handle a bigger garden. Now, what some of the side effects of taking on too much too soon include is neglect, that your garden just gets out of control. And then what happens is your out of control garden needs a lot of time to maintain. And then you start going back to the very beginning of the video, where time and inputs is one of the reasons why people leave. But over here, I know with my life right now, I can only handle so much. So I have 2, 4, 6 beds, and I'm going to have 1 bed at the very end, which is going to be our herb bed. That's all I need right now. And in front of me, here in my onion bed, I have 327 onions. No, sorry, 164 onions in 1 bed. And I can plant onions twice a year. That is 328, something like that. Onions that I can grow within 2 growing seasons or a year. That's like an onion a day, which is more than enough. I don't need 3 beds of onions. I need smart planting at the right time, and I can grow a year's worth of onions in a single bed. I don't need a whole bunch of beds. I don't need to have a full bed of beetroot, because we don't eat that much beetroot. We will look at mostly canning and preserving the beetroot. So by the time this beetroot row in front of me over here has been harvested, I can then start another row somewhere else, but I can just take a single row, because it'll take us more than the time it'll take for another row to grow to eat this crops or this harvest. Now at the back there where I have lettuce, I have quite a bit of lettuce, but lettuce takes a small amount of space. Because that's something you eat a lot of, you can plant them quite densely because they won't overgrow each other. But if I had a full bed of lettuce just for my family, lettuce is going to bolt, slugs and snails are going to come in. It's going to become overwhelming because there's just too much for me to be able to handle in terms of cropping, eating, even just sharing. So don't overdo it. If you have to, start with 1 bed and learn how you can interplant, how long things take, how the plants grow in your microclimate. Learn. Then add another one. Then add another one. But don't go and spend a fortune on raised beds, soil, seeds, fertilizers, all of those things, and you have 10, 15 beds, and suddenly you freak out because it's just too much work and it's too overwhelming. It's a thing I see all too often, and it gets a lot of people down very, very quickly. So, I hope you found these 6 mistakes and 6 tips useful. If you're a beginner and you want any form of advice, please drop me a comment. Let me know what you thought. And also, if you're an experienced gardener, somebody who's grown their own food for many years, I'd love to hear from you. Add in to the community, add in extra tips. And for all of you who have been here many, many times before, thank you for your support. If you want to continue to support my journey, you can become a member, you can buy me a coffee, you can give super thanks. There are many different ways you can say thank you. So I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you found it useful, and good luck on your journey. I wish you nothing more than years and years and seasons full of bountiful harvests. Until next time, happy growing.